The business of business is people, yesterday, today, and forever. And as among employees, shareholders, and customers, we decided that our internal customers, our employees, came first. The synergy, in our opinion, is simple. Honor, respect, care for, protect, and reward your employees, regardless of title or position. And in turn, they will treat each other and their external customers in a warm, in a caring, and in a hospitable way. This causes external customers to return, thus bringing joy to shareholders. We believe that our job is not only to provide a far more reliable service at far lower fares, but also to provide a spiritual infusion, an infusion of fun, warmth, hospitality, and diligent servanthood for both employees and our passengers. The intangibles of spirit, in our view, are more important than the tangibles of things. Why? First of all, it's a matter of morality and of ethics. But secondly, from a purely business standpoint, the tangibles can always be purchased. All airlines have airplanes. But the intangibles are far more difficult for competitors to replicate. And unless a company is paying peonage compensation, psychic satisfaction is what employees and even external customers are primarily seeking. If anyone doubts the value of esprit de corps, I suggest a talk with the United States Marine Corps. Esprit gets things done well and fast. Communicate, 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 and communicate, but not in corporate speak or bureaucraties, which is not only boring, but hardly understandable. Set up employee services and employee care departments, which are constantly in contact with employees who have any professional or personal problems. Show that you value your employees as individuals, not just as workers. Through word and by deed, join in their every personal exaltation, such as the birth of a baby, and their every personal mishap and grief, such as the death of a relative. You always hear from us when anything important happens in your life. As a business becomes larger and more widespread geographically, establish culture committees. Establish culture committees, in effect, as missionaries to spread the word and keep the fire of culture burning. And constantly honor and constantly celebrate employees who display golden rule behavior, inside or outside the work environment, because they're the role models for all of your people and how you want them to behave. Culture is admittedly difficult to define.
That. One of the things, Herb, this may be kind of an unusual question, but one of the things that you've said, and I as a finance professor have tried to get my arms around this, you've said employees come first, customers come second, and stockholders come last. That's not exactly the way I teach it.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to take over that class.
I wondered, given that, whether you think it would be a step forward in America if we had that more reflected in boards of directors. For example, I notice your board of directors is not populated very much by customers, although they may fly, but they're elected by the stockholders. The customers don't elect the board. The employees don't elect the board. The stockholders elect the board. Do you think that's a mistake? Do you think we should have more of the European system where employees elect board members and maybe even customers elect board members?
I don't. We've experimented with that some in the United States, Professor, as you well know. United was a disastrous experimentation with employee ownership. We were the progenitors of employee ownership. We had the first profit-sharing plan in the airline industry introduced in 1973. And just to give you an illustration of what that's meant to our people, we had one of our captains that retired a couple of years ago and took $8 million with him just from his profit-sharing plan, not including his 401k plan where we have a full 7.3% match. But we've always felt that it's very important to have your employees as owners of the organization, but not controllers of the organization. Because sometimes when you come out of a particular environment, that tends to be your total focus. You tend to be a little tunnel visioned. And I don't think it's worked out too well at other airlines where they've, for instance, had labor leaders on their board that have a very special interest in the well-being of their own constituency. Customers, generally speaking, also tend to have somewhat of a narrow focus. And we're looking for people that have more of a world view, I think, on our board. And we're looking for people that are very diversified in their interests so that they can bring from their own activities a broader scope to our board. And so that's kind of the way we've always felt about it. As I said, we were the progenitors of employee ownership in the airline industry. We were the first, but we never thought that meant that employees should control the company. And number two, as far as customers are concerned, we bring them in to interview our prospective new hires. But what I meant by the narrow sliver of focus, instead of having a global view, is that when they talk to me about coming in and interviewing our new hires, prospective hires, they always want to interview the flight attendants. I mean, nobody ever says to me, "Hey, Herb, I want to come in and interview the mechanics," or "I want to come in and interview the pilots." They always want to interview the flight attendants, and that's what I mean by having sort of a narrow focus on things that we try to avoid.